Should I put this on?
Yeah, put the headphones on. There we go. We're live.
We're live.
John Cleese in the studio. How lovely to see you.
Nice to be here. Nice to find you're a decent size. I could never tell whether you were one of those little 5'5" guys like Tom Hollander.
Straight away, alienating huge swathes of my audience with your heightism.
I shall alienate them all. This will be the lowest listening figure you've ever had, James, by 1 o'clock.
We've got 10 minutes together on the radio, and then you're going to record a full disclosure interview podcast with me, which I'm very I'm very excited about. So we should sort of, I mean, you spend a lot of your time in LA. What's brought you back to Blighty? Why are you?
Well, I spend a lot of my time everywhere.
Yes.
People say, where do you live? And I say, I live in hotel rooms, and it's absolutely true. I mean, I've been in London 3 weeks this year. But if you say where, well, I was in Singapore, then I was going to do shows in Thailand. They got cancelled, so I went to LA because I have 2 daughters there.
Yes.
And I did some writing with one of the daughters, and then I did a tour of Canada and Pacific Northwest, and then I did a tour of Europe, starting in Portugal.
Don't you get tired?
Yes. The trouble about being old is that you feel tired all the time, but you don't know if you're tired or old.
So
you don't know whether to take a rest or not.
Right.
It's very confusing.
And how often do you take a rest? I mean, you've got your most recent book out, Creativity, A Short and Cheerful Guide. There's a couple of other things we'll touch on briefly that you're working on. I mean, what are you one of those people who can't cope with doing nothing?
No.
Absolutely
not. No, there's 2 types of work, James. You know this. Yes. There's the work that you do for money, and then there's work that you enjoy doing, which you also get paid for.
Yes,
right?
Okay. Yeah. So the best is when you get both.
When you get both. Yes. And at the moment, I've got both. Last night, I was working with a lovely guy called John Dupre. He wrote the music for Wanda, Fish Called Wanda, and he wrote the music for Eric on Spamalot.
Oh, wow.
And we're working on a musical of Fish Called Wanda. That's fun. I really enjoyed working with him. We finished about 7 o'clock Sunday evening, and that was great. And the other thing I'm doing is I'm writing a script with my daughter called Lookalikes, which is about the Hollywood lookalikes. And again, I really enjoy working with her. So that's the best. You know, I'm getting paid, not much, but I'm getting paid and I'm enjoying it. Then there are other things I do, like commercials, which are perfectly pleasant.
Sure.
You can't pretend they're very interesting.
Or satisfying.
That's right.
Intellectually engaging.
So doing a commercial is like doing a crossword. It's about the same level of involvement, you know.
How much cachet does John Cleese have in getting projects off the ground? Very
little.
No, you must be exaggerating a little bit, because there are so many projects.
Well, I'll tell you a true story. I was talking to someone about 3 or 4 months ago who's been in show business for years. And I said to him, you know, I get very few offers in England.
Right.
I said, have I offended anyone? And he said, no, John, look, you're old.
How old are you?
I'm 83 in October. You're old and you're white and you're a man.
And there are no avenues open to you.
On that alone.
You could always go into politics. Doesn't seem to hold you back there.
Oh, no. Well, the nice thing, look, I'm going to be dead soon. And this pleasant prospect, you know, not having to get up every morning, cheers you up. And it also means you don't worry too much about what people think about you, because when you're young, you want everyone to love you. And then as you get older, you realize it's not going to happen.
I'm taking notes for our forthcoming more in-depth interview. We'll explore some of these themes a little more. What's going to happen first, the life of Brian or the Fish Called Wanda stage musical?
Well, the life of Brian is difficult at the moment because Eric can agree on very little with Michael, Terry, Gilliam, and me.
Right.
The 3 of us. And there's it's kind of locked. And I think it would get blocked if we went ahead with it, which is why I'm going ahead with the
that's a shame.
It is a terrible shame.
Is that artistic differences?
Artistic differences and sort of hating each other. Combination of the two.
That. This is going to shatter people's illusions. They've been carefully cherished for decades.
We're human beings, you know.
Of course you are. But
we've
Terry
been
and Michael
together since '69, so we had our odd disagreements.
And that is very much a collaborative project, Life of Brian, isn't it?
Not so much. No, what happened?
So it's more his than yours.
Say again?
It's more Terry's than yours. I wouldn't have thought.
Well, not really.
No.
You see, when we did it, it was one of the best films I've ever worked on because God smiled on it from the beginning. Yeah. Sometimes that happens. And we loved it, and we felt that it was our best film, and also it's about serious stuff, about following religious leaders.
When I started at Ampleforth, the Benedictine public school, in 1985, it was still banned.
Well, the girl who played Judith Iscariot,
yes,
she became mayor of her town in Wales and debanned it about 30 years after they banned it.
No, it was astonishing.
But it upset people enormously. Now you don't get anything, but I'll tell you something you'll find amusing. I was talking to the potential producers, a Broadway producer, and we had a read-through, and it went terribly well. I changed an awful lot of stuff. And it went terribly well. And then I said to the actors afterwards, is there anything in there that bothers you? And they said, well, yes. I said, what? They said, well, Eric's saying, I want you to call me Loretta. Now, that film's been out, I think, for 45 years. We've never had problems with it before.
Can move from blasphemy
now we can't do that very funny stuff, which is, of course, ahead of its time.
Yes, it is ahead of its time. I'm sure you could do that.
But nobody's worried about the crucifixion anymore. They're all worried about Loretta being a fella.
I don't want to pour fuel on the flames of these disagreements.
Oh, good. But please do. It's much more fun.
What's Terry Jones's major objection to the plan, if I may inquire?
Terry,
who's holding things up?
Eric is on one side and Gilliam Palin and I are on the other. It's all a bit stuck.
What's Eric's major objection?
We're not quite sure.
Oh, really? He just doesn't fancy it?
But I think he was terribly disappointed that what happened at Paramount was that two people at Paramount were very keen to turn Spamalot into a movie. And then they got replaced by two people who were not keen to turn it into a movie. That's why it didn't happen.
So studio shenanigans.
It was a terrible shame.
You can tell how starstruck I am to have John Cleese in the studio. I just brought Terry Jones briefly back to life, which was something of a misspeak.
He died, didn't he?
I do apologise.
Oh, that's right. I know one of the Terrys died. I think it was the wrong one.
Oh, God. Let's talk about A Fish Called Wanda then. When might that see the light of day on a London stage? Or would
With a little bit
be
of luck, it could see the light of day this autumn, and we might do it in England.
Will you be in it?
What, in a wheelchair? Well, no,
not at all.
No. I don't mind doing stand-up now because you can get away with anything there because you can chat to the audience. But I wouldn't want to do anything that was too demanding or that had anything very physical to do.
So we started the conversation by running through your indefatigability and the fact that you are doing so much, and we're sort of ending it for now because we're about to sit down for a whole hour and do a sort of life and times type conversation with sort of A Fish Called Wanda coming to the stage without John Cleese being in it. He's going to, I don't know, he's going to sit a bit. I think you should. I think you should have a rethink, John.
Archie should be 83.
Yes,
no,
I do.
No, I list.
Who would play your role?
I'll get out of the way, and when we do Life of Brian, that'll all be done by very, very good young comics. And when we had the read-through in New York, I don't know if we'll do it in London or New York, there were 5 performers there who could go straight into that show and be just as good as we were. Because it's very different.
No, of course it is.
Different ending.
Your relish for it seems undimmed.
Yeah, well, there's some of it I really enjoy. Yes. I really do. The touring is okay because it's nice to go out in front of an audience who are laughing at you. It makes you feel good. But the travelling's a killer,
Briefly, because we're out of time, the short and cheerful guide, creativity. Tell people why they should buy it.
Because it's useful for people to know how to have ideas of how to do things better.
Nicely put.
And it can be read in 50 minutes.
That's even
a huge plus.
Even more nicely put. It's the 5'5" of books. We're going to go off and record full disclosure for this week. So thank you very much
Great
for
pleasure.
now, John Cleese.